Hello and welcome to Fireline. You know, you would think that after 30 years of planning for retirement, the way it's been for my wife and I, to a horse ranch, a working horse ranch, that somewhere along the line I would have found it necessary that I learned how to weld. And for some reason that just totally escaped me until about a year ago, when I did the same thing that most people do. I reached out to the internet and I looked to people that knew more than I to teach me about welding and tell me what I needed. Unfortunately, that's not what I found, at least right away. The internet is a wonderful place. It's great for education, it's great for entertainment, but sometimes the lines get blurred, the lines get completely crossed, and sales takes the place of education. I needed a place that just wanted to teach me how to weld and not sell me a machine, but help me understand what type of machine that I needed. And I found those places, albeit after weeks and months of digging. I found them. They're places like weldingweb.com, weldingtipsandtricks.com. Kevin Karen has a fabulous site that is both educational and it's entertaining. He makes great videos, and there are others out there that are like them. Sites that have forums in them that you can ask any question that you would like and they'll have the answer to it. So the way my mind works after 30 years in the entertainment industry on the other side of the cameras, not on this side, was to take that information and make it available to other people out there like myself who wanted to learn how to weld but didn't know the first thing about it. And so I went to them. I went to Wes, and I went to Al, and I went to Julie, and I went to Terry, and these names are not going to mean anything to you now. But believe me, after a few episodes of Fireline, they will. Because these are people that have forgotten more than I could ever hope to learn. These are DoD, Department of Defense certified welders whose work goes into NASA and up into space. These are people who are experts in underwater welding, heavy equipment welding, art. Some artists that are just fantastic. I went to each one of them and I said, would you participate in this? And I laid out the circumstances. I said, I want to use the internet and I want to use connectivity, I want to use broadband, and I want to use Skype to help people understand what type of machine they need and answer their questions. And again, without exception, each one of them said yes. So in the coming weeks, we're going to take one professional from a dozen different jobs. One may be in NASCAR, one may be again in underwater welding, one may be in NASA. We're going to be going to New York, to the Netherlands, to England, to Australia, to learn and answer your questions, because chances are they're the same questions that I had. And you're going to participate in this. So, with all that being said, now you know the foundation for Fireline, and we hope you enjoy it. We hope you enjoy being part of it. We hope you enjoy learning from the best that this nation and this world has to offer. And with that, let's take a look and see who's up first for this episode of Fireline. You know, 30 years in the U.S. Navy is going to teach anybody to stick two pieces of metal together. But you don't get to be named Art Trend Magazine Sculptor of the Year simply by building stadium-sized metal boxes that float. You see, to do that, you have to do exactly what the Navy hates, and that's toss the plans right out the window and start creating what up until then only existed in your mind. And that's exactly what metal sculptor Kevin Karen did when he traded in his Navy-issue blue jacket for a pair of city leather bibs and started welding in anything but a straight line. And the results? They were nothing short of stunning. From his Echo and his Sprung to Hands On, which won him Westmark's 2009 Best of the West Award for Arts and Culture, to his Big Bang and Boo and The Seed, which was just set as the centerpiece for Chandler, Arizona's new $12.5 million tumbleweed recreation center. More than 40 of Kevin's sculptures live in galleries and private collections from coast to coast, in places like the Phoenix Museum of Art and the Shimmer Art Center, and one of the jewels in the California modern art world, the Laguna Beach Gallery of Contemporary Art. And so my thoughts were, who better than a person like Kevin Caron to kick off our discussions relative to questions we all have or have had at one time, whether we're in that 18 to 25 group trying to decide what we're going to do with the rest of our lives, or over 50 and retiring, in my case, to a ranch with a whole lot of things that need fixing and relatively little experience when it comes to fixing them. Technology has come a long way, and it's put the power of do-it-yourself in our hands at a level that heretofore has been unknown. We can do things that our grandparents and our parents could only think of if we only knew where to start. So with all of that said, Kevin, where do we start? What do you think about the power of technology in the hands of the common folk to do things that we couldn't do before?
I'd like to say, first off, thank you for having me on today. But, I mean, the invent of the welder for the common man, I think, has really opened a lot of doors. You know, in the old days, you used to have to go down to the blacksmith shop, and hopefully he could fix it someday. But he was back there working all his little magic in the background, and you were never allowed to know what he did. Nowadays, boy, just about anybody can pick up a welder, and with just a little bit of training, they can go ahead and fix the fence, they can fix the gate, they can make a new gate. It's a really exciting time.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there when it comes to black magic, but I also think that to a certain extent, some of that black magic still occurs today. When I go into my local welding supply or I go into a big box store, I can't help but think I'm being pushed one way or another, depending upon what it is that they want to sell. Look, I'm a rancher like most of us are. I'm a homeowner like most of us are. I'm a tinkerer. I'm an artist. I want to fix things. TIG, MIG, stick. You don't have an axe to grind, Kevin. What am I looking at here?
Boy, it's a big question. The differences between MIG and TIG, let's start there. MIG has that big spool of wire inside the machine. You can get up to 33 pounds of wire in there. So, my God, you can weld for a month before you ever run out. The big advantage to MIG is it's one-handed. So if I'm building a sculpture and I want to put a piece in place on the larger sculpture, I can just hold it up with one hand and then come in with the MIG and give it a little zap, a little tack here, a little tack there, get everything all put together. Now, MIG is great for, like I say, the production runs, the long runs. It's great for the structural welds that you're probably not going to see. So if it's like inside a sculpture, or if it's on the back side of the gate, or on the hinge for the garage door or something, great machine for that. I will normally use the MIG as a tack machine just to put the sculpture together, and then I'll get the TIG out, because the TIG is so much cleaner. There's no smoke, there's no splatter, there's nothing to clean up when you're all done. There's nothing to grind. It's there, it's done, you can move on to the next part. Now, a lot of the TIG machines also come with stick welders built into them, which gives you kind of the best of both worlds, really, because the stick is great for much thicker metal, anything over, say, like a 1/4 inch. I would drag the stick welder out if it was not an artistic weld, if it was not cosmetic. I would grab the stick for that. The stick is great because I can go outside, I can be in the wind, I can have the cooler running in my shop where, right now it's over 100 degrees, and have the wind blowing on me, because it's not going to affect the weld of a stick welder. The inert gas that you use in the MIG or the TIG, the breeze from the cooler will blow the gas away, and that'll screw up the weld. You'll get a bad weld.
Okay, so you talk about gases, and that brings us to another question that I'm sure all of us, especially beginners like me, have. As I understand it, you've got CO2, which is good for MIG, you've got argon, which is good for TIG, and you've got a mix of CO2 and argon together that is good for MIG. Those are our choices as a beginner, as a rancher, or homeowner, hobbyist, or artist. Those are our choices of gas. Is that about right?
Yes, it is. A lot of guys will use straight CO2 with a MIG machine, but what happens is the weld is a little smoky. There's a little more cleanup with straight CO2. If you're using the 75% argon, 25% CO2, or the mixed gas, here they call it star gas. Go to your welding store and just ask for a bottle of MIG gas. They'll know what's supposed to be in there. But with the mix, you get a much cleaner weld. You get less splatter, less to clean up. Not as clean as TIG, which is running straight argon, but it helps.
Okay, and we touched on this briefly before, but I want to go over one more part of it. I've got MIG, TIG, stick. Those are the three biggies. I'm just getting started out. I'm a rancher, I'm a homeowner, and I've got repairs to do, or I want to do art. From your perspective and all the years that you have invested in this business, what's the easiest? What's the easiest for me to get started with or get hooked on and then advance into other forms of it?
Oh, the MIG, absolutely. Like I say, it's basically a point and shoot machine. You get your joints together, you start at one end, you pull the trigger, the machine starts welding all by itself. As soon as the wire coming out of the end of the cable or out of the end of the gun gets close enough to the metal for the arc to jump, it starts. You're going. As long as your settings are correct, and as long as you've got a nice steady forward motion on your gun, you're going to do a good weld.
Okay, and Kevin, being very mindful of your time, and again, I so appreciate the time that you are devoting to this. I see so many forum postings that are much like my postings that say, I have $5,000 to spend, or I have $3,000 to spend, or I have $500 to spend, or I have $1,000 to spend. I'm a rancher, I'm a homeowner, I'm a tinkerer, a hobbyist, an artist. Do I need a $3,000 machine when what I'm going to be doing is taking care of my tractor and welding some tubular steel and taking care of the things around the ranch around here? Do I really need a super expensive machine like that? Even if I want to grow, knowing that I'll grow someday, to need more, do I have to spend $3,000 or $5,000 for a machine today?
No, you certainly do not. Any machine can get the job done for you. The big questions that I would have are, how well will it get the job done, and how long will it get the job done for you? So, that $3,000 machine with the fancy paint job, you can buy an import machine that will do just as good a job. It will last just as long. It just doesn't have the fancy paint job. It doesn't have the reputation, if you will, because it's a much younger company, and you can buy it for half the price.
So really what you're telling me is that technology is advancing so quickly that the prices are falling through the floor, making good machines affordable to all of us. Not to say that there are not those junky machines out there made with parts that are going to fall apart, but we don't really need to spend that much money. Technology has brought us along that quickly to where the average Joe or Jane can get involved with it.
Yeah, far surpass.
Okay, so there you have it. Kevin, with that, thank you for being with us today. We're going to be back with you here in a little bit to ask you some more questions, but mindful of your time.
Pleasure being here.
Next week, I hope you take the time to join us because we're going to further the discussions on questions that occur to all of us when we're getting involved in welding. Questions like electricity, power, how much power do I need for welding, other tools, the safety aspects of welding, anything that you want to know is what we're trying to do here. And we're going to point you in directions that have people like Kevin's, like Welding Tips and Tricks, like so many of them other out there, we're going to point you in those directions and say, hey, you know what, go watch these videos. We're not here to sell anything. Again, we're here because there was no place like this when I was looking for a welder where you could just depend on what people had to say because they weren't selling anything. We'll see you next week, hopefully back here, and thank you for joining us on Fireline.